Happy Friday, folks. Matt with Eddie's Guitars coming to you, as always, from St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you so much for joining us on a lovely Friday afternoon. We are really looking forward to taking a very close look at some of the guitars on the wall behind me here. And an absolutely lovely guitar to start with here is this Goodall Grand Concert. The theme of today's live stream is recent arrival acoustic guitars. And this guitar that I'm holding in my lap right now could not fit that bill much more closely, as we actually just received this guitar off the FedEx truck today, just a few hours ago. So I've been tuning it up and just briefly getting to know it. And I'll tell you, all the initial impressions here are very, very strong. What we have here is a beautiful, as I said, a Grand Concert body style. So we have a 25.5-inch scale length, standard scale length Grand Concert guitar. Just a very balanced size, kind of a medium size guitar, 14 fret guitar. You can see the top on this, we will take a look at here, is a beautiful master grade Western red cedar top. And just for the record, most of the time, if there is an option with Goodall for a master grade anything, normally we check that box. So this is indeed a master grade Western red cedar top with a fabulous set of special reserve, very highly figured and three-dimensional koa for the back and sides. Just beautiful, beautiful golden koa you can see there. Just really distinct figuring as well. Got a few koa guitars on the wall behind me that I'm really anxious to play through and take a look at, but thought this would be a great one to start with. As I said, this is the Grand Concert. You can see that super, super curly maple binding around the body as well as around the face of the headstock there. Just a very sharp, crisp and clean looking guitar, and certainly a very crisp sound as well. If you're relatively new to the Goodall instruments, or if you've never actually had the opportunity to play one before, the Goodall guitars have a signature presence to them. There's a bit of a brightness up in the top end that's very articulate. There's a real depth but simultaneous clarity to the low end of their guitars. Real clear bass response. And it seems as though they've taken the reverb knob on many of their guitars and just inched it up just a little bit compared to a lot of other makers out there. These guitars just have a breadth and a sustain and a longevity to that sustain that can frankly become pretty addictive, especially if you're into doing the fingerstyle stuff. Just a real beautiful sound. Harmonics just absolutely ring like a bell out of there. Really, really nice. Lots of harmonic presence as well. Those proverbial overtones. The Goodall guitars tend to have a nice, just a texture level of overtones out of their guitar. Really nice stuff. As always, folks, I have Hondro joining me behind the desk over there.
What's up, gang?
If you have questions for either Hondro or I would enthusiastically encourage you to submit them on whatever platform you might be joining us on, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. Twitch, is that what it's called?
That is what that's called, yes.
I'm new to Twitch. In fact, I'm not even new to Twitch. I'm not even on Twitch yet.
Well, you are on Twitch, and let me tell you, we're the #1 channel on Twitch. Even bigger than Fortnite and Minecraft.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that what Twitch is for? Is for video games?
Yes. So, we play music on the video game channel.
for my friends here who are stateside. What is this, Memorial Day weekend? Is that right?
Yes, it is.
So if we're not going to talk about grilling or smoking or meats, then we might cut this just real short today. But for those of you who would like to talk about what you might be throwing on the grill this weekend, get those typing fingers ready, because I'd love to hear all about it. And I'm actually going to be taking my one of my acoustic guitars home this weekend, so I can actually play it at home for a while. So if any of you folks are maybe playing some nice acoustic guitars over the weekend, I'd love to know what guitars you might be tickling there. As I said, folks, this is a Goodall Grand concert that literally just arrived in the shop today. Had the opportunity to pretty much tune it up, take some photographs of it, and it's been sitting in here waiting for us otherwise. So the definition of a fresh one, for sure. That is a heck of a tone wood combination from the folks at Goodall. Western red cedar over, again, very, very beautifully figured koa for the back and sides of this guitar. Folks at Goodall are known for using a lot of koa on their guitars, whether it be binding material or actual tone woods for the back and sides, or even sometimes the soundboard of the guitar. And there's just something extra, I think, in especially their koa guitars, that, again, there's a dimension, there's a depth, there's that reverby breath to their guitars that's very consistent from one guitar to the next, even though they do each have their own personality for sure. But if I were ever going to do a koa guitar, it'd be tough to think of someone else other than Goodall to do it, for me personally at least. But going to go to a very, very different animal here altogether. The Goodall being sort of your contemporary styled, ultra perfectly built, kind of almost Lamborghini level guitar there. We're gonna hop right in the Ford Mustang of acoustic guitars. If I can.
You got this, man.
Go easy on me, it's my first time. This is a Gibson Historic, 1936 J35. As far as the big body guitars go, the J35 is without question my favorite Gibson model that has been made. This particular iteration of the J35s, there's been many iterations over the years, especially early on. But this particular iteration is going to have scallop braces and scallop tone bars. This also has a torrefied red spruce top on this guitar under that vintage Sunburst. Let's take a gander there. Thank you, Hondro. That's a torrefied Adirondack spruce or red spruce top, one and the same there. We've got Honduran mahogany for the back and sides on this guitar, kind of that dark classic Gibson walnut stain to that mahogany there. I can show you how beautifully they finish it with all the swirl marks and everything. Now this actually has what they refer to as their VOS, or Vintage Original Spec finish. So it is not meant to be perfectly flat and perfectly glossy the way that the Goodall was that we had just played a minute ago. You can even see kind of the grain lines up there in the bout there through the reflection, if you're following what I'm saying there. Kind of see that Adirondack top with the grain lines. We've got, of course, the old school white silkscreen logo on the face of that headstock. This is pre-Banner era, being the early 1940s for the Banner era. This being the 1936 reissue, would have been before the Banner era guitars. But I will tell you, this is almost a similar vibe to like the different can of worms, I realize, but a similar vibe to the Martin Authentic Series guitars. So very, very lightweight. Again, it does not have the ultra super buffed out finish on it. It's a little bit softer, kind of worn in feeling finish on it. Definitely has that punchy mid-range to it that Gibson is known for, and rightly so. A lot of horsepower, a lot of attitude. I'm going to hit this G chord one more time, and I want you to pay special attention to the sustain of this guitar. Let's be honest, that's not tons of sustain. That's not necessarily a terrible thing. Gibson, compared to makers, classic makers anyway, like Martin, were not necessarily known to be the longest sustaining guitars out there. Martin definitely seemed to have a little bit of an edge, at least in the early days, to having that long, ringing, continuous, kind of almost a blooming sound. This, you can tell, is a bit simpler. Like I said, it does have that growling attitude to it, which is really satisfying. But it's definitely abbreviated in how long it actually rings out on its own. And of course, this being a brand new guitar, I think that qualities like that will improve as the guitar gets played more, vibrates more, and all that good stuff. But just an observation that's sort of almost by design, or by default, maybe perhaps is the better way to say it. But again, I've got to say, for all of the kind of odd models that Gibson has chosen to make over the years, I think this example, this model, is a very, very, not only a good one, but an accurate one to what a lot of those very early J35s were kind of all about. Just good, strong, solid bass response, good kind of a rhythmic attitude to the sound. Just good stuff all the way around. Very classic American guitar sound here for sure.
Got a question from chat from James Bertels on YouTube.
James, good to have you here.
I was curious if it's the bracing that makes it a 35 instead of a 45.
Primarily, yes. That's a very, very good question. So there's the J35, there's the J45. Typically, and again, I shouldn't even say typically, because Gibson, especially in those 1930s and early 40s, they were experimenting with so many different combinations of things. So to your point, James, by definition, there are J35s out there built exactly like J45s, but they're labeled as a J35, and vice versa. Typically, kind of the classic, and probably, as far as I understand, one of the more sought-after J35s is the scallop brace version that has the non-scalloped tone bars, and that, to me, represents a J35. J45 tended to have the fully scalloped everything, the tone bars, the braces, of the good eras, the Banner era and also pre-war era. And again, there's going to be people out there telling me I'm wrong. But the reason I'm wrong and the reason those people are wrong is because there's just a huge mismatch of all sorts of different specs, as it were, between these different models, which is confusing in a lot of ways, but also terribly charming too. Looking back at that, point of American history with instruments, it kept pretty interesting.
What do you think about the Gibson Advanced Jumbo?
Love the Advanced Jumbo. So the Advanced Jumbo compared to this guitar, just again for reference, this is a 24 3/4 inch scale length guitar. That's a very important part of these ingredients. Aside from being this slope shoulder body, the scale length is a big part of what makes this what it is. The Advanced Jumbo typically was a long scale length guitar. So 25.4 inch scale length. And typically, not always, but usually the Advanced Jumbos would have rosewood rather than mahogany on the back and sides. So between that scale length difference and the back and side material difference, you're talking a very different guitar. Of course, bracing was certainly a bit different on the Advanced Jumbos as well. The Advanced Jumbos also had a little bit more of a fancy fingerboard inlay, sometimes a headstock inlay. So it just had a little bit, it was more of a kind of a deluxe model and was very much so built to sort of compete with Martin's D28, the rosewood dreadnought from Martin. So it had a little bit more of a fancy kind of a presentation with it. Those are incredible guitars. Unfortunately, that's one of the, I shouldn't say few, but one of the several Gibson models that I have not actually had the opportunity to play a real vintage version of, admittedly. So the versions that I have played have either been reissues or guitars made by the likes of Kevin Kopp and other more modern current makers today. But the Advanced Jumbo on paper, long scale length, slope shoulder, rosewood back and side, J45 for all intents and purposes, that's a banging guitar for sure. Who was it? Pete Richter, I think, if I'm not mistaken, told me about in fact, I think he played it, and my buddy Dustin actually played the same guitar down in Nashville that was for sale. It was a 1938 Advanced Jumbo, and both of them acted like I would sell my house for this guitar in a heartbeat. Nice. I don't remember what the number was, but I remember whoever was selling it was asking a pretty tremendous amount of money for that guitar. And 1938 Advanced Jumbo, they didn't make many of them back then, so rightly so. More power to them. Yeah, again, this is a new guitar, obviously. So there's a hints of tightness here and there, but I'll tell you, the character in this guitar, I mean, give it a couple of weeks of serious playtime, this thing is going to sound, I think, like a much older guitar than it actually is. Pretty cool. Again, that's the 1936 reissue Gibson J35. Good to see a J35 with a nice Sunburst top on it. Some of the J35s also came with natural tops, which is another cool little aspect. So. On to the next, folks. We also actually just received this Lowden. Was this today as well? Yeah, I guess it was,
yeah,
wasn't it?
It was.
That's why these strings are still stretching a little bit. Unbelievably different sound compared to the J35 that we just played. J35 was just a lot of that center mid-range, just absolutely punching. This has almost the polar opposite, just a very scooped mid-range. Lots of warm, fat bass and sparkle in the trebles, but almost a hollowness in those mids by comparison. Just kind of just really gives you a different mood altogether for sure. Before I get carried away here, we better talk about what this thing is. Again, this is an 035 from my friends at Lowden out in Ireland, way out in Ireland, in fact. And the top that you can see that we started with on this guitar is a beautiful, very nice Adirondack spruce top. I really like the Adirondack top guitars that we get in here from Lowden. It's a little stiffer soundboard material, tends to really kind of punch out with some good volume, nice sustain for sure. Just a nice soundboard material in the context of their kind of build and voicing style there. Bound in maple, as you can see there. Nice silky looking maple. Back and sides of this guitar are a beautiful, beautiful, seriously, I love this set of Cocobolo. Really nice, nice set of wood here. Nothing ridiculously flashy. You can see that nice quarter sawn section right down the center. Gets a little bit flatter as you get out to the lower bouts there on the outer edges. And honestly, that's a lot of the rosewood that I like to see is just dead, straight down the center, then a little bit of figure out to the edges there. Reminds me of some of my favorite guitars, both that I've played and currently own, actually. It's just nice stuff. See, it's got the cutaway on there. And this also, let me actually, before I get ahead of myself here, normally the necks on the Lowden guitars are a 5-piece mahogany and walnut. I'm sorry, not walnut, rosewood rather. And this neck actually is the maple version. So you can see it, rather than being mahogany in those 3 areas, that's actually flame maple that they use. And the kind of the idea behind using the maple neck rather than the mahogany is that the maple is a harder and stiffer wood. So that ideally the tuning stability, especially if you're the type of player who switches between a lot of different tunings sort of on the fly, the stability of that is very good with a stiff maple neck because it has less movement to it based on the string tension itself. So there's a little bit more rigidity here. And I'll tell you, just the resonant quality of it, you can kind of feel that this thing just is lively, a little bit more so than the mahogany versions. I think there's a bit of truth. It's really hard to totally dial it down just to this one thing, but I think there's some truth in that. The Lowden guitars with the maple necks on them are just a little bit brighter sounding guitars all the way around because you have that harder wood, a little bit more of a reflective sort of action out of that wood, along with being a little bit harder and more rigid. So Nice airy sound of that. And there's certainly a brightness there and a presence to that top end, but I think in a very pleasant way. Really nice. Very nice indeed. Good stuff.
Question from Dan McCarthy on YouTube, asking your opinion on Ivoroid bindings. Is it plastic? And should we be putting plastic on wood guitars?
Ooh. Good question. And Condra, you might have to stop me because I might get carried away. Okay. Is Ivoroid binding plastic, and should we be putting it on wood guitars? Depends on the binding. For example, my friends at Bourgeois use a cellulose, or do they refer to it as celluloid or cellulose?
Celluloid would be the picks, right? Cellulose. Well, I don't know.
I guess celluloid would technically be right in a sense.
Oh.
So we're gonna pick on Bourgeois because Bourgeois, in my opinion, does it right. There are makers out there that, in my opinion, don't do it right in terms of the material they use. Easy for me to say, not being a guitar builder. But Bourgeois, I know, uses a somebody correct me, please, if I'm wrong, because I'm going to make myself sound like an idiot real quick. They use basically what is a natural material to create that binding. I'm going to pick on another maker, Martin Guitars. I'm going to pick on another maker, Guild Guitars. Those are two makers that do not use pure celluloid or cellulose, whichever one it is. And it is more of a plastic material from Martin, from Guild. In my experience, from a guitar shop standpoint, not even necessarily a guitar buyer, but somebody who sells these things, the material that Martin and Guild has used for many years and continues to use is not something that I would choose to bind my very high-end, type of instrument, custom instrument in. The binding that Dana Bourgeois and his crew uses, I would comfortably use any day of the week if that were the aesthetic preference or effect that I was going after. In my experience, the Bourgeois material, I've never seen shrink. I've never seen pull away at the waist. I've never seen any evidence that a Bourgeois guitar with grained Ivoroid binding needs to be repaired or addressed in any way. That's just one guy. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just saying I've never seen it out of any of Dana's guitars. Martin and Guild, on the other hand, I can't even count how many Martins and Guilds that I've seen with binding. This is the classic area right here, is the binding wants to pull away from that tight curve in that waisted area. I've seen it on Martins, whether that be grained Ivoroid or even tortoiseshell on Martin guitars. For some reason, again, I'm not trying to pick on anybody here necessarily, but for some reason, they continue to use it. They continue to have issues with it, and they continue to fulfill warranty claims to fix this stuff. So it's like, if you know there's a problem and you know there's warranty claims, it would sure be nice to actually address that. For whatever reason, that's not the case. That was an awfully long explanation for me to say yes and no. It can be plastic, but it is not necessarily. You have to know the source. You have to know what the stuff is actually made out of. But whatever the stuff that a few of these companies uses is, whether that's plastic or not, it does shrink, it does create issues, and it does need to be repaired. So be aware of that. Martin is one of the culprits. I hate to say, but they are. So should we be making our guitars with it? If it's the stuff Dana uses, and if you want it to look like ivory binding on the outside of the guitar, green light, you're good to go. Otherwise, be aware of everything that I just said. Good question, though. Speaking speaking of my friend Dana Bourgeois, we just pulled one of his guitars off the wall here. I happen to know that, at least on social media, this guitar has gotten a fair amount of attention thanks to my friends at Bourgeois posting about it and posting some photos before they actually sent it our direction. But it's here now. This thing is absolutely gorgeous from head to toe. And I'll tell you, from the sound to the playability to the looks of the thing, a guitar that I would very gladly own myself. I hope you're putting up on the screen what these guitars are, because I am failing on telling people what they are.
I did, yeah.
Good, thank you. Folks, since you've seen it already, we will go ahead and talk about it a little bit. This is the Bourgeois OMC Soloist, a rather customized version that we were able to do and actually hand select these woods for, which was a lot of fun. The top that we have here, which you can see, is a very beautiful, just a bit of bear claw in there. That's a age-tone or torrefied Italian spruce top. I got to tell you, it's not every day that you see torrefied European spruce. So when it's available, I tend to go a little bit crazy and just order about as much of it as I can, because I really like this stuff. Really nice sounding wood. It's a little bit drier sounding in my experience than non-torrefied European spruce, but in certain contexts, that just really works really well. Back and sides of this guitar are a beautiful, beautiful, and just crazy unique, highly figured set of koa here, especially in that lower bout. You can just see how three-dimensional that is, and it's almost like long, straight hair falling into this just crazy mess of figure down here. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Just really cool set of wood. And the sides, I will tell you, we'll just take a quick gander here, especially on those lower bouts, are absolutely equal, and it's kind of cool. Just kind of the nature and style kind of straight up here, just like the back there. Then as you work your way to the lower bouts, that really turns into some wild stuff, as you can see there. Lots of dimension there. The whole guitar is also bound in koa, and I got to tell you, this is not the first one that we've done similar to this, at least with the koa back and sides and then the koa binding. I just think that uniform color kind of going all the way around the guitar, of course being on the back of the guitar, is just so handsome. And European spruce and a tone wood like koa just absolutely works. You know, koa to me is almost like mahogany on steroids. A little bit more overtone presence, a little bit more brightness typically than what mahogany has. Then when you take that Italian spruce and apply that to that sort of concoction, you just get some really beautiful sounding stuff. And there's overtones there, but not just an overabundance of harmonics and stuff happening. There's a balance to those overtones. It's not just a total the lowest note on the piano kind of thing, you know. Good tone there, man. Just an in the pocket, balanced finger style tone there for sure. Wow. Take it from me, she ain't hard to look at either. Just never hurts.
Love that cutaway.
Seriously. I mean, I say I wish more people would do it, but it's like, man, thank you, Dana.
Paul Bowden on YouTube was curious if Dana was the one that built your bearded hog.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Well, Dana and his crew.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Moving right along to one of my other favorite builders, for sure. This comes from my good friends out at Kevin Ryan out in California. Seems like I've been on a Californian-made guitar kick lately. Between the acoustics and the electrics, actually. And folks, I'm going to be honest with you. Oh, I'm gonna have to rely on my memory here slightly. It's been probably 6 months ago, maybe 7 months ago, and that 6 to 8 months, we'll say, just to give a range. We had a guitar in the shop almost identical to this. It was identical in the important ways, being the tone woods and the body shape and size. And for reference, this is a Kevin Ryan Nightingale. Thanks, Andrew. Kevin Ryan Nightingale with a bear claw Sitka spruce top, which you can just see has some just almost marbling type of figure there.
It's like Wagyu beef.
Man, seriously, good stuff. Speaking of grilling, is anybody talking about meat yet?
Yeah, someone said they were grilling some lamb. I said I might do some
Ooh,
steaks.
that sounds pretty good. Are you grilling anything this weekend, Hondro?
Yeah, I mean, we re-upped on all our charcoal and kerosene, so I gotta light something on
Kerosene.
fire. I'm
Get
gonna get
out of here with the
upset.
kerosene. That's cool though, I guess. Do your thing.
Oh yeah, I don't usually light my grill with a flamethrower because you're borrowing it right now, so I have to use the kerosene.
Well, such is life. All right, folks. Bear Claw Sitka Spruce on the top here. And again, this is very similar to a guitar that we had previously with Tasmanian Blackwood back and sides on this guitar. And now you might say, Matt, that looks an awful lot like what I know Koa to look like. And you would be right. In fact, if almost anyone in the universe told me this was Koa, I'd pretty much believe him. One thing I want to point out to you that's just sort of nice is you can see that spalting in the sapwood down there of that Tasmanian Blackwood. Just a cool little unique touch. But again, just super, super figured, and the color of this stuff, even the sides there, man, just beautiful color all the way around. Love that end wedge that they do on the Ryan guitars. Very, very clean. Long story short, we had one similar to this. It sold so quickly and people were freaking out about it so much that I called Amilcar at Ryan, was like, just make that same guitar again. Just make it. And it's now here. And I'm not surprised that that first one sold so quickly. Will not be surprised when this one sells quickly either, because the presence, the clarity, the long ring of this guitar, it's absolutely all there. I think this is a very fine example of what a Ryan guitar can do. And I really associate Sitka Spruce with being one of the sweeter sounding tone woods out there. It's never terribly sharp or shrill or harsh sounding. There tends to be a real sweetness with really good Sitka Spruce, and to me this guitar just exemplifies all of that. Man. Very sweet sound, jeez. Of course, all of the Ryan guitars now come with the full suite of Ryan innovations. So we were going to have the forearm bevel here. You can see those acoustic flutes that are carved right into that forearm bevel over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them to be exact. You can see there. And that is kind of acting as an active sound port in lieu of having a sound port anywhere up here on the upper bout facing the player. I got to tell you, I've played enough guitars that have sound ports on them somewhere to accurately determine this is my favorite iteration of a sound port in one way or another. For me, at least. Not necessarily saying it should be everybody's favorite, but for me, you have the traditional sound hole as well as this situation here that really angles it at a player-friendly position, and not to mention just the ergonomics of the forearm bevel itself. sort of a two-in-one package there. Of course, I haven't even mentioned anything under the hood of this guitar with the EO laser cut braces, the honeycomb bridge plate that they use underneath the bridge of the guitar. It's all really, really unique stuff to what Ryan is doing and really creates their own sound. One that I have become just amazingly fond of. There's like a thickness to that sound, a density to the sound. Nice power to it, really nice. Really beautiful sustain too, man.
I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions because we're going slow today. We're not gonna make it through all these guitars.
Oh, baby. Holy cow.
Well, you loaded up the wall pretty heavy, so. Does that guitar have a bit of a curve to the back of it?
Yes, it does. I don't know if we're going to... Here, let's switch that camera angle. In fact, the back is... I don't know if you can appreciate this. It's actually bold, so it's curved both this way and this way. So times two, yes, it is curved on the back. Think Ovation, but not nearly as curved as Ovation.
Yeah. Second, are Koa and Blackwood both acacia?
Yes. Short answer is yes. Good question.
And is that a bigger sound hole than usual?
On the Ryan?
Yes.
No. I should...
Traditional sound hole for them.
Traditional sound hole for them. If you're thinking that this might look even bigger than a typical Ryan sound hole, you might have an optical illusion happening because of this wide band rosette. Definitely gives the appearance that that's got a bigger mouth on it than it actually has. So, good question though.
There's some folks that are all happy that you are, or that we are now on the Acoustic Guitar Forum. So they're all talking
awesome,
about that.
awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear from somebody off the Acoustic Guitar Forum. We were lucky enough to it's been a few weeks, if not a month or so ago now. We were lucky enough to be able to become sponsors on the Acoustic Guitar Forum. And it's I've been getting on there every day, even if I'm not posting something or contributing something. It's always fun to see what people are up to, and I've seen a lot of actual friends of mine on there. I've seen customers on there, people that I know from all over the world that are on there, sharing the good word of acoustic guitars. So that's a beautiful thing. I'm glad somebody mentioned that. That's awesome. Glad to have y'all. Folks, I didn't realize how far into this hour we have gotten, so we're going to try to book it the rest of the way out here. Forgive me if I go too fast, but I've got at least a couple that I absolutely insist we have to get through before we sign off here today. One of which is this beautiful Lowden. This is an F35C. So it's the F body, sort of the middle large size, I guess you could say, from Lowden. This does have the beautiful Venetian soft cutaway there. And this is one of their fan fret, or otherwise known as multi-scale models. So you can see, if I flatten this guitar out, those frets are actually fanned from one direction to another, kind of leaning down this way and then leaning all the way up this way. And as a result, you can see that bridge is a pretty funky looking situation at a rather extreme angle down there. And unfortunately, I hate to admit, I don't have the two scale lengths. You know, obviously this end of things is one scale length and the lower end is a different scale length. I don't have those numbers right in front of me, so I apologize. But This is the multi-scale fan fret F35 cutaway. The particular woods that we have on this guitar are a beautiful, dramatic sinker redwood top and a rather beautiful set of Cocobolo on the back and sides. Beautiful, beautiful figured Cocobolo there. Great looking stuff, especially that way it kind of spreads out in the lower bouts there. That's cool stuff there. Man, just lots of spider webbing and dimension in that, in the grain there. And this is an example of the mahogany neck, like we talked about earlier. The Lowden we played just a little while ago had that figured maple neck. This is an example of that mahogany with the rosewood splices going down there. And this is an impressively bright sounding guitar. Lots of presence up in the top end, and frankly, not on paper at least, not exactly what I would expect out of a Redwood and Cocobolo guitar. I would normally expect at least a little bit of a darker sounding guitar. I think with some playtime, this guitar will definitely get into that warmer territory. But as of right now, it's a very articulate, very clear guitar. And interestingly, the relatively scooped mid-range that we had in the Lowden before, this one really kind of fills in those mids a lot more. Definitely has more of that mid-range there. Another example of very long, luxurious sustain out of a guitar. Very cool creation too. We have definitely never had a Lowden quite like this in the shop before, so this has been a very educational experience to have this one around. And I'm sorry I'm not going to play it longer, folks, but we have at least a few more to bang through here real quick. This is one that I'm not embarrassed to admit I'm very anxious to play this one. I've been playing it a lot the last couple weeks, so I won't lie to you. This is a guitar that I was lucky enough to be able to commission with Mr. Michael Bashkin. It's been going on 3 years ago now, believe it or not. He's got quite a long waiting list, and we were not in any kind of a rush or hurry for this guitar because we wanted it to be absolutely perfect. And based on the sound and the playability and the looks of this thing, it's about as close to perfect as I think we can get. This is a Bashkin JM model. Very classic, classic in terms of a Bashkin looking guitar, I guess you could say. Man, just an incredible, sophisticated sounding guitar. Just absolutely inspiring to pick up and play it, just from the feel to the dynamic range that it has. And again, bear in mind, this thing's like a few weeks old at best. So I'm confident that all of these wonderful attributes that it has are really going to grow pretty quickly here, because it's a light guitar. You can feel there's not a lot of finish on it, and it's really been, you know, scalloped out and thinned out everywhere it can be to make it as responsive and full sounding as it can be. The JM model from Bashkin Guitars is essentially a bit larger version of an OM. Let's take a look at these woods here while I've got you on that angle, Hondro. We've got a beautiful beautiful Italian spruce top on this guitar. So beautiful. You can barely see the grains in that top. They are so tight, so consistent. You can see that medullary ray all the way through that top. That is just an absolutely like to die for Italian spruce top there. And if that weren't enough, frankly probably is, but if it weren't, Honduran Fiddleback Mahogany for the back and sides. And if you've been following our channel for any more than 5 minutes, you probably know that this is one of my favorite tone woods on the face of the planet, this Fiddleback Honduran Mahogany. This is a set that I was lucky enough to pick up from the good folks at Hibden Hardwoods in downtown St. Louis here. We sent a couple of these sets to Michael, and this is the first guitar that he has built us with it. And man, I'll tell you what, I wish I would have sent him about 20 more sets if we had access to that many more sets. But just an incredible combination of woods, and the fact that it's just a little bit bigger than your standard OM model, the bass response that comes out of it is just awesome. Filthy. To me, that is pretty much exactly what a European spruce and mahogany guitar ought to sound like. That's not always what they sound like, but to me, this is about best case scenario. And one of Michael Bashkin's signatures, without question, is his headstocks, even though he doesn't really put his name on his headstocks. If you know his style and kind of his approach, you might recognize that even from a mile away. Just a great shape, really cool purflings happening in there. Almost looks like a little bit of a, like a, what do they call those? The champagne flute things. Yeah, with a little bit of Redwood whiskey in there, maybe. That's how I drink it, at least.
What, whiskey out of champagne glasses?
Why not?
Yeah, I gotta try that.
It's all just a vessel. But yeah, just seriously amazing stuff here. And if you're not familiar with Michael Bashkin, first off, you probably already are. But if you're not, he does the aside from being an incredible luthier, he does the podcast Luthier on Luthier for, what is it, Fretboard Journal, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If you don't know him himself, he's probably interviewed one or more of your favorite luthiers already. So be aware of him and his Luthier on Luthier podcast, which is fascinating and one that I tune into very regularly. And folks, I hate to do this to all of us. I'm going to have to pick one of the last three here, and I'm just going to have to pick. So we are, again, hate to say rapidly running out of time here. Maybe I'll save those other two that we were not able to get to until maybe next week or the week after or something. The only reason, just out of fairness, the only reason I'm skipping these two is we already played a Bourgeois. We already played a Kevin Ryan earlier in today's live stream, so if anyone is looking for justification, whether that's justification or not, I'm using it. So before I get carried away, and I can already tell I'm going to, what we have here is a Froggy Bottom Model K Deluxe. You can see that beautiful Florentine sharp cutaway on there, and I've got to tell you, just from an appearance standpoint, if I never held or heard the thing, this is one of the nicest looking guitars I've seen. Just the shape of it, the silhouette of it, awesome, awesome. It looks like a dangerous weapon, if you ask me, and that's good stuff out of an acoustic guitar. Top that we have on here is a beautiful German spruce top. We do a fair amount of Michael's and Froggy Bottom teams, German spruce on the guitars that we have them build for us. An absolutely beautiful set of walnut for the back and sides. I got to tell you, admittedly, I've been on a little bit of a walnut kick lately with a number of different builders. This is top of the heap as far as I'm concerned for just walnut offerings out there. This is just an incredible example of just use of the wood. Again, just so balanced, and just a downright beautiful sound out of this guitar. In fact, we're gonna hit it with a pick just to be a little bit different. Hopefully the microphones here portrayed some of just the fullness and openness that exists both with the pick there And with totally bare fingers. No picks, no finger thumb picks, no nothing. No long nails. Man, oh man. That is a sound. And folks, again, I hate to cut us short here, but feel like we've been live for about 15 minutes, and we've been live for a good deal longer than that, but time flew right on by today, so here we are. Like I said, a couple that we were not able to get to this week, I will enthusiastically have in our lineup next time we come live to you, whether that be next week with acoustic guitars or perhaps the week following. But we look forward to that. Any parting words there, Jandro?
Just had one last question from Formica Fanfare on YouTube. Was curious if we've received any Froggy Bottoms without Michael's signature on them, and how they compare.
Very good question. As of now, no, we haven't. This is, in fact, the only one that I have not carefully inspected to see if Michael's signature is in there. As Michael so eloquently said to me, and this has been maybe about a year ago, I said, so, hey, can I officially congratulate you on your retirement? He said, oh, you can congratulate me all you want, but I'll probably still be here sweeping the floors at least until the guys kick me out. So though he is technically retired, his hands are still very much so in these guitars, at least for the time being. And for what it's worth, I haven't heard that anything otherwise is going to be happening immediately, at least. So I'll tell you, if anything, I think that the most recent Froggy Bottoms that we've been getting in are the highest level that they have ever been at for any Froggy Bottoms that we've received since we've been a dealer, which has been well over a decade, if not a decade and a half or so. But I can enthusiastically say the quality has not waned in the slightest. In fact, if anything, these guys are building more and more guitars. They're getting more experience, more mileage under their belts. So guess what? They're only going to get better. So, and that's pretty much what we're seeing here. So again, this is the Model K Deluxe with the Florentine cutaway, German spruce top with, again, just that filthy figured walnut back and sides on that. Beautiful, beautiful guitar. And folks, just like that, we've reached the end. If there's time for anybody to say what they like, great. If not, no big deal. We'll leave you all to it.
All right, everyone has 30 seconds to pick one guitar that they heard.
30 seconds, folks. Let us know what has spoken to you today, if any of them. I've got a couple for sure that have been speaking to me, and I'll be glad to share those once. Show me your cards first there, Jandro. What do you like?
I'm gonna go with that Lowden, the first Lowden you played. The
first one?
The OMC,
yeah, the Cocobolo
right?
and Adirondack. Yep.
When you hit those harmonic taps, it was like, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I was just like, it went right through me, man. It was awesome.
Very Bell-like stuff happening in that guitar for sure. Yeah.
Klaus says the Froggy. Dave Winstead says the Ryan. Renee says the Nightingale, the Bear Claw, and Tasmanian.
Yeah.
Jason said the Bashkin. Jose said the Lowden.
Man, nice little spread. We were looking at the wall when we got all these lined up and got a couple of these guitars in today, and I was like, man, what kind of spoiled are we down here? Yeah. Just everyone is like, holy cow, this is a holy grail by anybody's definition. So, yeah, we've got all sorts of favorites. I'll tell you, this one definitely spoke to me. That Bashkin, I've got to tell you, that thing physically hurts me to play because I know I can't own it. So it's that is a massive, massive tease there. Whoever ends up with that, please make sure that you live in St. Louis so I can come visit it daily, and we will be in
visitation.
just awesome shape. But folks, I think that might be it for today. Like I said, if you're in the States, I hope you have a wonderful long Memorial Day weekend. Keep it safe, keep it friendly, both to yourselves and to others. And I guess that's it.
That's it.
We'll catch you guys all next week, perhaps, and we'll go from there. Have a good weekend, everybody.